The Pavilion Smart Living series presents Staying Healthy in Today's Toxic World. All chronic illness today is due in large part to the toxicity of our food, our air, our water, our living and workspaces, our personal care products, and even our electricity. This is a big deal, seriously. And here's the World Health Organization's definition of health, which I really like. A state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. So my question is, why don't we have regular practitioners or facilities that can work with our complete health? Shouldn't our annual physical checkups also look at how we're doing emotionally, mentally, energetically, socially? But actually, wait, this just in. This is a little teaser to part 2. There is a relatively new class of medical devices called bioresonance biofeedback devices, mostly coming out of Europe, which can look at and address all of these health factors. They're able to check you for the many kinds of toxins we'll be discussing here. Very cool. Where do toxins fit into health? Well, the National Institutes of Health and the American Medical Association both agree that at least 80% of our health problems are caused by stress. And one of the biggest categories of stressors is toxins. So let's look at the main health stressors, see what they are. I'm not going to get into emotional issues today, other than to say we all have them and they definitely impact our health. Let's get into the heart of our program, starting with the toxins in our commercial food supply. Oh, before we even get into the food category, just a quick reminder that also you are what you drink. Unbelievably, there are over 300 chemicals used in processed foods today, and statistics show that the average American household spends about 90% of their food budget on such foods. Because our bodies often interpret these man-made chemicals as foreign invaders, they create health problems. For example, allergies are a common side effect, and MSG is known to cause overeating and weight gain. The bottom line, read the label and avoid processed foods as much as possible. By the way, you should know that these food additives are banned in most countries of the world. Here is a top 10 list of the food additives that health authorities recommend you avoid. Great graphic, right? Wheat and gluten have been identified as foods which cause inflammation. And my understanding is because that's in part due to the manipulation of the genome of the commercially grown wheat. So going organic can definitely help. Subway agrees to remove plastic chemical from their bread. Right, what was it doing in there to begin with? GMO foods, of course, have been identified as problematic. But since they're not labeled as such, we're at a loss to know if our foods are genetically modified or not. Suffice it to say that unless the following products are labeled as organic, they are GMO. That includes nearly all corn products, soy products, sugar beet products, cottonseed oil, canola oil, aspartame, and dairy products that contain the growth hormone RBGH. Another graphic, high fructose corn syrup. And some fast foods contain the same chemicals you'll find in your shampoo. Nice, huh? Or maybe your chicken sandwich isn't even chicken. And this just in, a 2017 study published in Biomedicine and Pharmacotherapy reveals for the first time that the nanoparticle form of the common whitening agent, titanium dioxide, is capable of inducing tumor-like, cancer-like changes to human cells. Because titanium dioxide is in so many products, from toothpaste to sunscreen, and including the items shown here, you may already be ingesting trillions of nanoparticles every day, according to researchers at Binghamton and Cornell University. And more breaking news, an FDA-registered food safety laboratory tested iconic American foods for residues of the weed killer glyphosate, which is Monsanto's Roundup, and found alarming amounts in them. Just to give you an idea of how outrageous these amounts are, independent research shows that probable harm to human health from glyphosate begins at really low levels of exposure, about 0.1 parts per billion. Many foods tested were found to have over 1,000 times this amount. Are you seeing this? Here are some more products you may recognize or be eating. Got chocolate? Maybe we should ask, got lead or cadmium in that chocolate? This CNN article references independent lab test results obtained by a California-based consumer advocacy group. The group had multiple samples of 70 different cocoa products tested and found that more than half contained lead and cadmium levels above the state's limits. And we're not just talking commercial brands. Even some organic and fair trade chocolates contain these metals. If you're a chocolate lover, I highly recommend looking into this. Arsenic is another real problem, especially in rice. Consumer Reports found measurable levels of arsenic in some 60 rice varieties and rice products they tested, and went on to say that data released by the FDA in 2013 showed that many rice cereal and rice pasta products had such high amounts of inorganic arsenic or carcinogen that just one serving could put kids over the weekly maximum recommended amount of rice considered safe. Here's a good point. Cleaning up your diet is great. But even a few years of clean, organic, well-balanced eating can't make up for the 20,000 or more inadequate meals you may have already eaten. That makes sense. Back to key health stressors. Okay, let's look at some environmental stressors. Strap in, it may be a bumpy ride. For example, have you ever used, obviously, toothpaste? Another on toothpaste. Have you ever used a cell phone? Silly question. Have you ever used fabric softeners? I love this one, Dior Poison perfume. Hey, I give them a lot of credit for putting it right on the label. There are no requirements for safety when it comes to our personal care products or our home cleaning products, and you need to be aware of that. So they can and often do harm us and harm the environment too. Many cosmetics, soaps and shampoos, air fresheners contain cancer-causing ingredients, certainly allergens. In fact, some lipsticks were found to also contain lead. Lead kills brain cells. Formaldehyde, most commonly associated with preserving corpses, is used by many big clothing companies to give their clothing a fresh, unwrinkled appearance and prevent mildew during shipping. Formaldehyde is a highly toxic, colorless gas classified as a human carcinogen. Hey, but isn't it good to now know that you're flame retardants? Again, why are so many women having trouble becoming pregnant? We never had all these fertility clinics around. They were never needed. From July 2015, 4 brands of children's crayons contain cancer-causing, lung-damaging asbestos fibers. Wow. And don't young children and babies love to put keys in their mouths? Well, it turns out that many keys contain high levels of lead, so much so that this flyer you see was issued by the state of New Hampshire to warn people. And you've probably heard by now that silver dental fillings are basically 50% mercury, a neurotoxin, and can contribute to health problems. Root canals can be problematic too. Anyway, it's important to just be aware that any health issues could be tied to dental issues. Okay, Teflon. Ever cook with Teflon? Oh yes, bad idea. Let's talk about cash register receipts. Did you know that the paper cash register receipts you grab with your fingers contain the toxic substance BPA? Yep, the toxic chemicals they removed from the plastic drinking bottles a few years back. But they left it in our receipts, and tests have shown if you eat shortly after handling a receipt, high levels of BPA show up in your blood. And BPA is what's called an endocrine disruptor. It replaces our hormones because of its similar molecular composition. But it's not a hormone, so our bodies begin to malfunction. It causes developmental delays in children and fertility and reproductive problems in adults. And by the way, they don't have to put it in receipts either. I go to an organic market that uses cash register receipts that don't have BPA. Believe it or not, I just found out that our toilet tissues, many facial tissues and paper towels contain high levels of BPA and chlorine and other toxic chemicals. Are BPA-free products safe? No. And I quote, almost all the commercially available products tested labeled BPA-free released chemicals with estrogenic activity. So essentially, we're still stuck with the same problem. Okay, so that wraps up part 1, and I hope you found it useful. There should be a link here somewhere to a PDF I'll post, which includes some helpful resources. Stay tuned for part 2, and thanks for watching.